Triple your salary with just 8 simple habits. The 7th will change your life. Andrew Carnegie. There's a quiet moment in almost every professional's life. Not in the first job. Not at the beginning of a career. It happens after a few years, when you realize you're working hard, but staying in the same place. You work. You deliver. You solve problems. You hit deadlines. But your income feels locked under an invisible ceiling. And then the question appears, the same question Andrew Carnegie asked one day. Why do some people grow financially at an absurd speed, while others stay at the same level for decades? Carnegie didn't come from privilege. He was the son of a weaver, an immigrant, or no degree. But he had an obsession to understand what makes a man's value rise. And he discovered something that changes everything. Income doesn't grow through effort. It grows through internal transformation. Most people try to earn more by doing more of the same. Carnegie did the opposite. He became different. That is the key. Today you'll understand the 8 habits that move someone out of average pay and into a completely different income bracket. These aren't magic formulas. They're structural mental shifts. Habit 1. Stop working for a paycheck. Work for your value. This was Carnegie's first shock. He noticed that the workers around him did math like this. How much do I make per hour? But almost nobody asked the question that changes your life. How much more valuable am I becoming each year? Salary is the effect. Value is the cause. If you're doing the same things today that you were doing 2 years ago, your salary makes sense. Carnegie said the world pays for impact, not effort. You can exhaust yourself all day doing small tasks, but the people who grow solve big problems. And that requires development. He used a simple logic. If I become twice as valuable, my income cannot stay the same. But that requires a decision most people avoid. Stop measuring your work by exhaustion and start measuring it by impact. Habit 2. Run toward responsibility, not toward comfort. Carnegie noticed a brutal pattern. When something difficult appeared, most people backed away. Complex problem, they avoid it. Hard decision, they pass it off. Exposure, they hide. Leadership, they refuse. But those were exactly the situations that made someone stand out. He realized a silent law. The more weight you can carry, the more valuable you become. Average people want comfortable tasks. People who triple their salary become the support system for hard decisions. And the market pays heavily for those who can handle pressure. Habit 3. Study when nobody is forcing you to. Carnegie didn't have formal academic training. But he had something rare, strategic curiosity. While others rested their minds, he fed his mind. He studied how decisions were made, how businesses grew, how leaders thought, how problems were solved. He said voluntary learning separates those who stay the same size from those who level up. Most people study to pass tests. People who grow study so they won't remain ordinary. Habit 4. Stop being busy. Start being relevant. Carnegie saw something that still happens today. People live busy and stuck. Meetings, emails, texts, movement all day. But when they look back, nothing changed. He said, activity is often the excuse of people avoiding real growth. Every day he asked, does this create results? Does this create progress? Does this make me more strategic? If the answer was no, he cut it. People who triple their salary do fewer things, but they do what carries weight. Habit 5. Stop being easy to replace. Carnegie had a harsh line. Anyone who can be replaced easily gets paid like an ordinary person. Most people learn just enough to execute. People who grow learn enough to think. He developed strategic vision, clear communication, the ability to solve complex problems, decision-making under pressure. That made him rare. And the market fights over rare people. It ignores common ones. Habit 6. Think like a builder, not like an executor. This is a dividing line. Executors think, I did my part. Builders think, how can this grow? Improve? Scale. Carnegie acted like an owner before he was an owner. He protected resources, improved processes, thought long-term. Companies pay salaries, but they reward an ownership mindset. Habit 7. Stop waiting for confidence. Act before it. This is the point almost nobody accepts. Most people believe they need to feel ready, feel safe, feel confident, and only then act. Carnegie discovered the opposite. Confidence doesn't come before action. It is born after repeated action. He said the biggest barrier to financial growth is psychological. Capable people stay at the same salary because they doubt their ability, wait for guarantees, want certainty before trying. But while they wait to feel ready, other people, less prepared but more decisive, move forward. Carnegie did something that looked risky, but was strategic. He placed himself in situations bigger than he felt ready for. He took on responsibility before he felt prepared, made decisions before he had total certainty, entered rooms bigger than his comfort zone. And every time he acted, his mind recorded something powerful. I can do this. That repetition builds internal authority. Most people live stuck in this loop. Insecurity, waiting, stagnation, more insecurity. Carnegie broke it. Action, experience, learning, real confidence. The people who triple their salary aren't the ones who feel most prepared. They're the ones who decide to grow even while feeling unsure. Habit 8. Stop working only to survive. Start working to build. This is the habit that locks in everything else. Carnegie observed that most people work to pay bills, handle emergencies, put out fires, keep the month alive. That's survival mode. But people who level up live in construction mode. The difference is deep. Survival thinks, what do I need to do today so things don't go wrong? Construction thinks, what can I build today that changes my future? If you spend your life only solving the present, you never create something that changes tomorrow. Carnegie always reserved part of his time to learn, plan, create opportunities, think strategically, develop rare skills, even when he was tired, even when the day had already been long. He said, today's salary is paid by yesterday's work, but tomorrow's salary is defined by what you build beyond your current obligations. The moment your salary changes, Carnegie realized something most people never see. Your income doesn't increase when you ask. It increases when you become impossible to ignore. And that happens quietly, not on the day you decide to grow, but months later when your mind becomes more strategic. Your decisions get sharper. Your posture changes. Your communication evolves. Your responsibility increases. Your vision expands. Then opportunities begin to appear, not because of luck, but because you became a different level of person. The final truth Carnegie would leave you with, if he had to summarize everything in one sentence, it would be something like, salary is a reflection of who you've become, not how hard you worked. People who work only for effort stay stuck. People who work to evolve grow. Tripling your salary is not about working 3 times harder. There is a silent mistake that keeps people stuck for years, even though they are hardworking, honest, and dedicated. They believe the world pays for effort, but the world pays for perceived value. And perceived value comes from who you have become internally. Carnegie observed that 2 men can work the same number of hours, yet one gets promoted and the other doesn't. One is invited into bigger opportunities, the other stays in the same place. One grows, the other remains. The difference is not only in the task performed. It is in the mental structure the person has built. Those who apply these habits begin to change something invisible. The way they think about problems changes. The way they speak changes. Their posture changes. Their tolerance for discomfort increases. Their responsibility grows. Their vision expands. And this creates something powerful, presence. Carnegie said there are people who, when they enter a room, you can feel they carry weight. Not physical weight, the weight of decision, the weight of responsibility, the weight of mental maturity. These people are not the loudest. They are the most structured. And the market, the company, clients, the world, they notice this. Not emotionally, practically. Because those with structure solve more, decide better, complicate less, deliver more consistently, handle pressure, don't collapse easily. And that is rare. That's why Carnegie believed financial growth is a consequence of sustained internal growth. Most people try to increase their salary without increasing their mental level. They want more responsibility, but not more discipline. They want more recognition, but not more consistency. They want more money, but don't want to think bigger. So life stalls. Because life always demands a structure compatible with the level you are asking for. If the internal structure doesn't match, growth doesn't last. That's why many people even receive a bigger opportunity and then lose it, because they arrived before they were ready. Carnegie did the opposite. He prepared before the opportunity arrived, learned before it was required, trained before he was tested, thought big before he had big resources. So when opportunity appeared, he didn't have to chase it. He was already at the level. This is the point that changes everything. You don't grow when the opportunity shows up. You grow before it does. And when it appears, you simply occupy the space. Tripling your salary is not an event. It is the side effect of accumulated transformation. Small mental adjustments, repeated long enough, change your decision patterns. Decisions change actions. Actions change results. Results change level. And then there comes a moment when it looks like suddenly your life moved forward. But it wasn't sudden. It was silent construction. It was when you stopped postponing what you already knew you had to do. Stopped living in reaction mode. Stopped waiting for confidence. Stopped wasting energy on distractions. Started thinking in terms of value, not only effort. Started acting even when uncomfortable. Started building the future, not just surviving the present. Carnegie would say that from this point on, income stops being the center. The center becomes continuous growth. And when growth becomes a habit, money follows. Because the world rewards those who solve problems at higher levels. And solving bigger problems requires a bigger mind. So the final question is not, how do I triple my salary? The question is, am I becoming someone who can sustain a salary 3 times higher? If the answer is no, the focus shouldn't be the salary. It should be the habits. Because salary is the reflection. Structure is the cause. Andrew Carnegie didn't build wealth just by working hard. He built wealth because he became someone capable of handling big decisions, big responsibilities, and big pressure. And when he became that person, money stopped being the goal. It became the consequence. That's how life moves to another level. Not when you force the result, but when you become the structure the result requires. Money doesn't change your life. It reveals the level of life your mind is already able to sustain. If your mind still lives in scarcity, you can earn more and still feel tight. If your mind lives in fear, you can earn more and still feel insecure. If your mind lives in comparison, you can earn more and still feel dissatisfied. But when your mind lives in construction, responsibility, and growth, every increase becomes a foundation for the next one. It doesn't become a burden. That's why real transformation begins in silence. No one sees when you decide to be more disciplined. No one sees when you cut distractions. No one sees when you do what must be done without feeling like it. No one sees when you choose to learn instead of complain. But months later, everyone sees the result. It looks like luck. It looks like opportunity. It looks like suddenly you grew. But it wasn't sudden. It was habit over habit. Decision over decision. Adjustment over adjustment. Andrew Carnegie would summarize it like this. The world does not pay for who you want to be. It pays for who you have already become. And when you become greater internally, your income simply follows the level your mind has reached. So let's close the foundation that supports all of this. There is a brutal difference between someone who wants to earn more and someone who has become worth more. The first person lives in pursuit. The second lives in construction. Those in pursuit constantly ask, how do I increase my income? Which opportunity pays more? What is making money right now? Those in construction ask something much deeper. Who do I need to become so that higher income is a natural consequence? Andrew Carnegie understood this absolutely. He did not chase money. He chased personal growth, competence, vision, leadership capacity, emotional stability, and mental clarity. Money came as a reflection. And that completely changes the way you live. Because when the focus is only salary, every difficulty feels like an obstacle. But when the focus is growth, every difficulty becomes training. And training builds structure. Structure sustains higher levels. That's why many people receive a big opportunity and lose it. They get a better position and can't handle it. They get a bigger client and get overwhelmed. They get more money and disorganize everything. Opportunity wasn't missing. Internal structure was. Carnegie saw success as progressive weight. Each new level demands more. More responsibility. More emotional balance. More clarity in decisions. More ability to deal with people. More tolerance for pressure. More invisible discipline. If you try to skip the training, the weight falls on you. That's why simple habits are so powerful. They seem small, but they do something enormous. They gradually increase your internal capacity. You start by meeting schedules. Then you meet goals. Then you meet bigger commitments. Then you lead better. Then you decide better under pressure. And before you realize it, you are a different professional. A different level. A different mindset. A different pattern of behavior. The market does not promote only those who need money. It promotes those who transmit security. And security comes from internal stability. Stable people don't explode easily. Don't panic easily. Don't fluctuate every day. Don't change direction at every difficulty. They transmit confidence. And confidence generates greater responsibility. Greater responsibility generates higher income. It's a cycle. But most people want the effect without the cause. They want the money without the structure. They want the position without the maturity. They want the result without the silent repetition of habits that build the foundation. Andrew Carnegie would make one thing very clear. You don't triple your salary because you asked. You triple it because you became someone who solves bigger problems. And those who solve bigger problems are rare. Rare because it requires discipline when no one is watching. Consistency when there is no applause. Focus when there are 1,000 distractions. Decision when there is fear. Most people don't sustain this long enough. They stop halfway. Return to old patterns. Look for another shortcut. But those who continue change levels. And when the internal level changes, the external level follows. Not on the same day. Not in the same week. But inevitably. And here is the definitive turning point. You stop living waiting for life to give you more. And start living by becoming someone who naturally receives more. Without excessive rush. Without desperation. Without comparison. Just construction. Andrew Carnegie would summarize everything like this. A man's income grows at the same speed his mind matures. If your mind remains small, your income hits a ceiling. If your mind grows, the ceiling rises with it. So the final question is not, how do I earn more? It is, am I becoming someone capable of sustaining more? Because when the answer starts becoming yes every day, growth stops being a dream and becomes a consequence. And when this becomes a consequence, something changes silently inside you. You stop feeling behind. You stop feeling that others are ahead of you. You stop desperately chasing opportunities. Because now you understand something Carnegie understood very early. The world does not reward need. It rewards preparation. Need creates hurry. Hurry creates mistakes. Mistakes create frustration. Frustration creates quitting. But preparation creates calm. And calm is power. When you are prepared, you don't need to grab every chance. You choose. You don't accept any proposal. You evaluate. You don't panic when something goes wrong. You adjust. And this behavior completely changes the way the market, people, and opportunities see you. Because average professionals react. High-level professionals respond. Reacting is automatic. Responding is strategic. Carnegie said most people feel tired not because they work too much, but because they live emotionally disorganized. One day, overly excited. The next day, completely discouraged. One day focused. The next day lost. This instability is expensive. Companies, leaders, and clients do not trust people who are emotionally unpredictable. But when you build simple habits every day, you create something rare: consistency. And consistency builds reputation. Reputation creates opportunities. Opportunities increase income. Do you see how it doesn't start with money? It starts with patterns. You begin to be known as someone who keeps their word, doesn't deliver halfway, doesn't need to be pushed, solves instead of complains, maintains control when most people lose it. This makes your name circulate. And when your name circulates as someone reliable, doors open without you forcing them. Carnegie built this. He wasn't the richest at the beginning. He wasn't the most experienced. He wasn't the most powerful. But he was seen as reliable. And reliability is invisible currency. The problem is that no one wants to invest in this currency because it doesn't show up fast. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't get immediate praise. It doesn't impress on social media. But it builds something that lasts. And here comes a decisive point. Tripling your salary is not just earning more. It is moving up a professional category. You stop being someone who executes tasks and become someone who sustains responsibility. This changes your function, changes your posture, changes your language, changes the way you think. You begin to see beyond your immediate work. You think in solutions, not just tasks. You think in results, not just effort. You think long-term, not just about the day. And this is rare. Most people work hard. Few build vision. Carnegie said a man's salary is proportional to the value of the problems he can solve. If you only solve small things, your income stays small. If you develop the ability to solve big problems, your income rises. But solving big problems requires emotional balance, mental clarity, daily discipline, the ability to think under pressure, control over your own behavior. And this brings us back to habits. Everything starts with simple habits. Waking up on time, doing what you decided, finishing what you started, not getting distracted by everything, not blaming everything, not quitting halfway. It sounds basic, but the basics repeated for years create a rare professional. And rare professionals are paid differently. Now comes a truth few people like to hear. Most people don't earn little because of lack of talent. They earn little because they don't sustain a high standard long enough. They start strong, stop, go back, get discouraged, change direction. Carnegie was not explosive. He was consistent. And consistency beats disorganized intensity. You don't need productivity explosions. You need direction maintained long enough. That's what multiplies income. Because the world rewards those who keep going when others stop. And the final point is this. You don't triple your salary when you learn a trick. You triple it when you stop acting like someone who wants to earn more and start acting like someone already preparing for higher levels. The change doesn't begin in the wallet. It begins in identity. And when your identity changes, your behavior changes, your reputation changes, your opportunities change, your income changes. And then it seems like suddenly things improved. But it wasn't sudden. It was silent construction, daily habits, repeated choices when no one was watching. Andrew Carnegie would summarize everything like this. Wealth does not grow at the speed of your desire. It grows at the speed of your maturity. And maturity is built one day at a time. So here is the closing Andrew Carnegie would leave after everything you've heard. Tripling your salary was never, in fact, about money. Money is the final reflection. What truly grows first is your mental standard, your level of responsibility, your daily discipline, your emotional stability, your ability to continue when no one applauds. Carnegie observed this his entire life. He saw men chasing shortcuts, tricks, unmissable opportunities, and remaining in the same place years later. And he saw others, quiet, consistent, disciplined, grow in a way that seemed almost inevitable. The difference was never luck. It was internal structure. He said life works like a system of trust. The world trusts those who control themselves. Companies trust those who are consistent. People trust those who don't fluctuate all the time. Opportunities trust those who can handle pressure. And trust creates responsibility. Responsibility creates value. Value creates income. You are not paid only for what you do. You are paid for the level of problem you can sustain without falling apart. That's why habit number 7 changes everything. It reorganizes who you are on the inside. And when that happens, you stop chasing money and start becoming someone money is drawn to. You stop being someone who needs to prove and become someone who delivers. You stop being someone who reacts and become someone who leads. You stop being someone who starts excited and quits halfway and become someone who finishes what they start. And that is rare, extremely rare. Carnegie would say most people try to change their lives with big, occasional decisions, when in reality life changes through small, daily decisions. You don't triple your income in one big moment. You triple it when, for months and years, you choose to. Do what is necessary even when you don't feel like it. Keep the promises you made to yourself. Not give in to constant distraction. Not abandon the process when results take time. Continue growing even without recognition. These choices seem invisible, but the world feels them. The market feels them. People feel them, and they begin to see you differently. You start to be seen as someone solid, and solidity is synonymous with growth. At the end of his life, Carnegie left one of the greatest lessons anyone can hear. The man who grows on the outside without growing on the inside falls. The man who grows on the inside will, sooner or later, rise. So the question is not, when will my salary triple? The question is, am I becoming every day someone capable of sustaining that level? Because when the answer is yes, growth stops being a hope and becomes a consequence. And that's how things truly change. Not with hurry, not with noise, but with silent construction. One habit at a time, one day at a time, until your external life finally reaches the level of the person you decided to become.